My name is Charlotte Avery, and I am 28 years old. The night my life cracked open didn't come with a scream or a slammed door. It came quietly, almost politely, with a glass of wine in his hand and a sentence that felt like being cut clean through the spine. My friends keep asking why I'm with you, my boyfriend Anthony said. And honestly, I'm starting to wonder too. I didn't even understand the words at first. They just hovered there, weightless, impossible, like they belonged to a different couple in a different living room. But then his tone landed. Smug, detached, a little rehearsed. And suddenly it all made sense. For months, something had been shifting under our feet. Girls' nights had become guys and girls' nights with his squad, 3 friends from college, 2 female, 1 male, all loud, all opinionated, and all determined to influence Anthony's life, like they were board members of the committee called His Future. They loved to tell him what kind of man he should be, what kind of job he deserved, and apparently what kind of woman he should date. And that woman wasn't me. But I didn't know that yet. I was still in the stage where I thought love was about patience and sacrifice and being someone's anchor while they figured themselves out. God, I was naive. I stood in the living room holding my keys, still wearing my coat, staring at this man I'd lived with for 2 years, supported for 4, loved for longer. Anthony kept swirling the wine like he wasn't dismantling the life we built. What do you mean you're wondering? I finally asked, my voice strangely steady. He set the glass down with a sigh, like I was making him explain something obvious. Come on, Charlotte, you're sweet and all, but let's be real. You play it safe. Same routine, same job, same everything. My friends think I could do better. His friends. The same ones who treated me like a well-intentioned but disappointing purchase Anthony made. I swallowed. Your friends don't know our relationship. They know me, he said simply. They know a version of you, I shot back. The one you perform for them. He crossed his arms like he was ready to defend a thesis. They travel. They take risks. They say I'm holding myself back being with someone who's comfortable. Comfortable. It felt like he'd spit the word out like it tasted bad. Comfortable isn't a flaw, I whispered. It is when it's boring. The room went silent. The worst part wasn't even the cruelty, it was how casual he sounded. Like he'd been coached, prepped, reassured by the very people who would benefit from this downfall. Like he'd been building up to this line, saving it for maximum impact. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to ask him if all the nights I paid the bills while he chased unpaid internships counted as comfortable. If the time I turned down a relocation promotion, my dream, because he begged me to stay so he could finish his marketing program, counted as boring. But the truth was clear in his eyes. This wasn't new. This wasn't sudden. This was the excuse he'd been waiting for. And the reason behind it hovered in the room like a ghost, unnamed but present. Her, Jasmine Hartwell, his ex-girlfriend, his adventurous muse, the woman his squad worshipped like a lifestyle brand. The one he'd been messaging as friends for weeks now, the one they always compared me to without saying her name. I could feel her shadow between us long before Anthony spoke again. There's someone who challenges me more, he said softly, almost guiltily, but not nearly guilty enough. I closed my eyes. Jasmine. He didn't deny it. The sound that came out of me wasn't a sob, not yet. It was a small broken laugh. So this is about her and your friends. Don't make this dramatic, he snapped, suddenly defensive. You should want me to grow. Jasmine pushes me. She makes me think bigger. You hold me in place. I held you together, I corrected. There's a difference. He shrugged like none of it mattered. That was the moment something inside me froze solid. He didn't love me. Not anymore. Maybe not for a long time. He'd already rewritten our past into something that justified walking away from me and running back to her. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. And I certainly didn't ask him to choose me. Instead, something colder settled in. A kind of clarity I hadn't felt in months. Okay, I said quietly. If that's how you feel, then we're done. Anthony blinked, startled I didn't fight. Just like that. You made your choice before this conversation, I whispered. This is just the confirmation. There it was, the flicker of guilt. But he buried it quickly, straightening his posture as if breaking something fragile made him feel taller. I packed while he texted someone in the kitchen. Probably Jasmine, probably his friends, probably all of them at once. He didn't hide the screen. He didn't even try to. That told me everything. I took only my essentials clothes laptop, the books I loved, not the ones we bought together. I transferred my half of the rent. I canceled my joint subscriptions. I removed him from my phone plan. Practical, calm, detached. The opposite of how he'd painted me. Before I closed the door behind me, I placed a note on the kitchen counter. Just one sentence. Now you and your friends can wonder together why you're alone. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because it was the truth. When I walked out, the hallway felt cold but honest, like the world was finally done lying on his behalf. Outside, the night air hit my cheeks sharp and clean. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt the stirrings of something unfamiliar. Not hope, not relief, not yet, but freedom. I didn't look back. When I left Anthony's apartment that night, the air outside felt colder than it should have. Not winter cold, just empty. The kind of cold that gets into the bones because it isn't about temperature at all. It's about grief. I dragged my suitcase down the stairs, one trembling step at a time. My vision kept blurring, not from tears, I hadn't let myself cry yet, but from shock, the kind that makes everything feel muffled like the world is wrapped in cotton. My friend Melissa lived across town, and when she opened the door at nearly midnight, I didn't explain anything. I didn't need to. She just stepped aside, silently ushered me in, and pointed to the spare room. I collapsed onto the blow-up mattress and stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of 4 years pressing on my chest. Only then did the sobs come violent, uncontrolled, primal. I wasn't crying because I missed Anthony. I was crying for the version of myself who loved him, the woman who believed she was building a future with him, the one who turned down a dream promotion to stay anchored to his plans. I cried for every moment I thought stability meant I was worth less than excitement. By morning, I felt like I'd swallowed gravel. My eyes were swollen, my throat raw. I went to work anyway. I didn't want questions. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted something normal. But even at my desk, the questions in my head wouldn't stop. How long had he been drifting away? How long had Jasmine been in the background? When did he start believing his friends over me? And the one that cut deepest, why wasn't I enough? The first week after the breakup felt like moving through thick fog. I kept replaying the same memories, obsessively dissecting every moment, every look, every joke his friends made at my expense. I remembered the night he told me Jasmine had reached out as friends, and how he'd said it too casually for it to be harmless. I remembered the way he had started dressing differently, speaking differently, adopting words Jasmine used online. Subtle shifts I hadn't questioned because I trusted him. Looking back, it wasn't subtle at all. But pain has a way of making you blind until it's too late to do anything about it. After a week of spiraling, I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a therapy session. My therapist, a calm woman named Dr. Fletcher, listened to my whole story without flinching. When I finished, she leaned forward slightly and said, "You weren't in a partnership, Charlotte. You were in a performance he expected you to applaud." It felt like being cracked open. She continued, "He didn't believe he was enough on his own, so he started needing validation from people who thrive on comparison. Your stability threatened the identity he was constructing. That isn't your failing, it's his." The words stuck with me, not because they made sense immediately, but because they made sense painfully gradually, like light forced into a dark room. I also started going to the gym. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about looking better. It was about having somewhere to put the anger. Every weight I lifted, every mile I ran, burned a piece of bitterness out of me. Sweat felt like a release one that words couldn't match. Some nights I'd stare at my reflection in the studio mirror, breathless, exhausted, and whisper to myself, "You are not boring. You are not holding anyone back. You are not a stepping stone." It felt strange at first talking to myself like that, but slowly those affirmations stopped sounding like lies. 3 weeks after the breakup, an email from Anthony slipped through an inbox I had forgotten to block. "Hey, Charlotte, I heard you moved out. I just wanted to check in. Things got heated. Maybe we should talk." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it, without replying, without hesitation. It felt like a small victory. Life began to stabilize in small ways. I accepted more projects at work. My boss, without fully knowing my situation, commented on how focused and sharp I'd become. I wasn't sharp. I was numb. But numbness can look like discipline to the outside world. Still, something unexpected happened. I started enjoying my focus again. Without Anthony's chaos in the background, his insecurities, his constant seeking of approval, I had space to think, to breathe. And then a promotion opportunity opened again. The same one I'd once turned down for him. Only this time I didn't hesitate. I applied, I interviewed, I got it. And for the first time in over a year, I felt proud of myself. Not proud through someone else's eyes. Not proud because I was supporting someone else's dream. Proud of me. Around that same time, I moved out of Melissa's place and into a quiet apartment downtown. It wasn't big. It wasn't fancy. But when I stepped inside for the first time, key in hand, the empty space felt like possibility. I bought a new desk, a bookshelf, simple, clean furniture that felt like it belonged to the woman I was becoming, not the one I used to be. Melissa helped me paint the walls a soft, warm cream color. When we finished, I stood in the center of the room, paint-stained jeans and all, and whispered, "This is mine. Not ours, not his, mine." It was liberating. A month and a half passed. I didn't hear from Anthony again, not directly, but mutual friends kept sending small updates almost by accident. Apparently, Jasmine and Anthony were already together officially. Apparently, she had convinced him to leave his stable job for a creative freelance opportunity. Apparently, Anthony's friends, the same ones who pushed him to chase excitement, were making jokes about how dramatic he'd become. Apparently, he wasn't handling the chaos as well as he thought he would. But I didn't ask questions. I didn't comment. I didn't enjoy any of it. I just observed, distantly, detached, quietly realizing something important. I wasn't the one falling apart. He was. 2 months after the breakup, a second email came in. More desperate, more frantic, more personal. "Charlotte, please. Things are complicated. I made mistakes. Can we talk just once? I miss you." I closed the laptop slowly, and for the first time, I smiled, because I didn't feel even a flicker of temptation. He was living the life his friends encouraged. He was living the fantasy he believed Jasmine represented. He got everything he asked for, and nothing he actually needed. Meanwhile, I was healing, growing, rising. Without him, without wondering, without looking back. There's a saying my therapist once told me: some people don't fall, they unravel. Anthony didn't just fall after I left. He unraveled thread by thread, decision by decision, lie by lie. And the most haunting part, I didn't even have to watch. The stories found me on their own. It started with small rumors from mutual friends, nothing dramatic at first. Someone mentioned Anthony looked off at a work event. Another said he'd been late to meetings. Someone else hinted that Jasmine was a lot to handle. I didn't pry. If people told me, fine. If they didn't, even better. I was building a new life, and his unraveling wasn't my concern. But the universe, it seemed, had decided I needed to see what choosing excitement over stability really looked like when the curtain fell. The deeper cracks began to show just 3 months after I walked out. Jasmine had moved into the apartment Anthony and I once shared, the same apartment I had cleaned, decorated, poured love and money into. She didn't treat it with the same care. Mutual friends said it looked like a tornado of clothes, camera equipment, impulsive purchases, half-finished, artsy projects. But what mattered wasn't the mess. It was the dynamic. Jasmine was chaos incarnate. Magnetic, yes. Adventurous, yes. The kind of woman who could make Anthony feel like he was living in a movie, definitely. But the movie had a genre shift Anthony wasn't ready for. She pushed him to quit his stable marketing job. "Freelancing is freeing," she'd said. "You're not meant to be chained to a desk." He listened. He always listened to the voices that promised him sparkles. Within weeks, he realized sparkles don't pay rent. He tried to follow Jasmine into the creative world, but he didn't have her eye, her talent, or her charisma. He jumped between short-term gigs, social media editing, brand, consulting, event, photography. Shadowing with her. Everything unstable, everything temporary, everything poorly paid. Meanwhile, Jasmine spent his savings like they were a temporary inconvenience between bursts of inspiration. Anthony's friends, the ones who pushed him to level up, weren't supportive either. They drifted when he stopped being fun, when he started complaining. When the spontaneous trips became spontaneous cancellations due to money. The same people who fueled his ego abandoned him when the shine wore off. He was left with Jasmine, and Jasmine left only when she was done using someone. The chaos turned dark. A mutual friend called Melissa one evening, voice low, hesitant. "Look, I don't want to get involved, but Jasmine has been screaming at him publicly, like, actually screaming, controlling everything he posts. She's accusing him of being insecure and boring and jealous. It's ugly, Charlotte." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked quietly. "Because he's telling people it's your fault, that losing you messed him up." That wasn't surprising. Anthony always needed a narrative where he wasn't the villain. Still something sharp twisted in my chest. Not guilt, not longing, but recognition. He was living the fate he tried to assign to me. He thought I would break. Instead, he did. But the real turning point, the moment everything snapped, came a month later. Jasmine cheated. Openly, recklessly, almost proudly. She posted a photo kissing another man on her story. A musician she'd met at some rooftop event. Anthony confronted her, and Jasmine reportedly laughed. "I never said we were exclusive. Freedom is part of my journey." According to a friend of a friend, Anthony cried. Cried. The same man who told me I was too safe, too predictable, too boring, cried over a woman who treated him like a placeholder. Karma doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it walks in wearing heels and red lipstick. Then came the financial downward spiral. Anthony couldn't afford the apartment. Jasmine drained his savings. His freelance gigs dried up. He was behind on bills. And in classic Anthony fashion, he didn't take responsibility. He blamed the instability he chose. He blamed the people who encouraged it. He blamed the economy. And somehow he blamed me. Charlotte leaving threw me off, he reportedly said. She gave up on me. Giving up requires someone trying. I had done all the trying. Then came the messages. First an email, then 2, then 5. All ignored. Then calls from unknown numbers. Ignored. Then voice messages, his tone changing each time. The first voicemail was soft. Charlotte, I miss what we had. I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. The second was pleading. Please call me. I need to talk to someone who understands me. The third was guilty. I made a mistake. Jasmine wasn't who I thought. The fourth was angry. You're being childish. We were together for years. The least you could do is respond. The fifth was broken. Please, I messed everything up. I didn't respond to any of them. Healing had taught me something Anthony never learned. Not every cry for help deserves an answer. When he realized I wouldn't reply directly, he involved his family. One afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. A stern older woman spoke first. This is Evelyn, Anthony's mother. I closed my eyes. Of course. Hello, I said carefully. You need to speak with Anthony. No, I don't. She huffed. He's going through a lot. Jasmine left him. He's unemployed. He's hurting. That doesn't make him my responsibility. He gave you years of his life, she snapped. I gave him the same. It doesn't entitle him to access to me, I said quietly. There was silence, then bitterness. You always were overly sensitive, and for the first time, her words didn't hurt. They bored me. I hung up. The desperation escalated. One rainy Thursday, as I walked out of my new office building for lunch, someone stepped into my path. Soaked, disheveled, shaking. Anthony. Charlotte, he choked out. Please, please don't walk away. I froze, not because I wanted to stay, but because I was startled by how small he looked. His clothes were rumpled, his hair unwashed, his eyes hollow. He looked like someone who had been running from a fire and was surprised to find himself burned. Anthony, I said calmly, what are you doing here? He swallowed hard. Jasmine's gone. She cleaned out my account. She screamed at me. She told me I'm pathetic. She left with someone else. I lost my job. My friends are all busy. I have no one. His voice cracked. You were always there. I didn't see it. I didn't understand. But I do now. Charlotte, I need you. I studied him for a long moment. This man crying in this rain had once told me I was boring, that I wasn't enough, that I held him back. You don't need me, I said gently. You need stability. And you destroyed the one place you had it. He reached for my arm. I stepped back. Please, I'll change. I swear, just give me another chance. No, I said softly. That one word broke him more than Jasmine ever could. Why, he whispered. Because the woman you threw away is not the woman standing here now. He stared defeated. I walked past him without looking back. He didn't follow. He couldn't. The unraveling was complete. And I was already rising. By the time the wedding invitation arrived, I had almost forgotten Anthony still existed in the same city as me. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a relic from a different lifetime. The names printed in elegant gold script belonged to two mutual friends, the kind who remained neutral during the breakup, but watched the fallout unfold from a careful distance. I almost RSVP'd no out of instinct, not because I feared seeing Anthony, but because I didn't want my peace disrupted by his inevitable orbit. But Melissa, ever the blunt voice of reason, said, you should go. Not for him, for you. Show up as the woman he never believed you could be. Her words hit deeper than she knew, so I went. The venue was a beautiful vineyard estate on the outskirts of the city, rows of vines stretching toward the horizon, soft music floating through the air, everything warm and effortless, in a way weddings pretend life can be. I wore a soft emerald dress that flowed when I walked a dress I might have avoided months ago for fear it was too much. Now I wore it because it made me feel like myself, steady-centered and quietly powerful. And I wasn't alone. My date. Daniel Whitmore walked beside me. A man I'd met through work. Kind eyes, a calm presence, someone who listened without needing to be entertained. We'd been dating a few months, not rushing anything, just enjoying the simplicity of being with someone who didn't treat relationships like performance art. Daniel squeezed my hand as we approached the reception hall. Nervous, he asked. Not nervous, I said softly. Just aware. He nodded, understanding the unspoken. The ceremony was beautiful. The vows were heartfelt, the music soft, the atmosphere light. I let myself get lost in the romance of it, not because I wanted to be the bride, but because I finally understood something. I didn't need to cling to the idea of what my past could have been. I was building something better now. After the ceremony, guests drifted toward cocktail hour, champagne glasses clinking in the golden afternoon light. Laughter filled the air. I mingled, chatted, even laughed genuinely. For a moment, I forgot about Anthony entirely, until I didn't. I felt his presence before I saw him. A shift in the air. That strange awareness of someone who used to occupy too much mental space for far too long. I turned and there he was, standing alone near the edge of the patio, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit, looking thinner, older, like life had been scraping pieces off him one at a time. His eyes widened when he saw me. Shock, recognition, regret. Then something darker, envy. He approached slowly, almost timidly, like he wasn't sure I'd allow him within a 10-foot radius. Charlotte, he said, voice hoarse. Hi. I nodded politely. Anthony. His gaze flicked to my dress, my posture, the calmness in my face. You look good, he said awkwardly. I know, I replied gently without arrogance, just truth. Daniel returned with 2 glasses of champagne. His presence was grounding like a quiet shield. Anthony's eyes flicked to him. Oh, you're with someone. Yes, I said simply. Daniel offered his hand. Daniel Whitmore. Anthony shook it, though, reluctantly. Anthony Mercer. There was a beat of awkward silence. I need to talk to you, Anthony said suddenly, his tone fraying. Just for a moment, please. Daniel looked at me for permission. I exhaled calm. It's fine. I won't be long. We stepped aside near a row of vineyard lanterns glowing softly as the sun dipped lower. Anthony shoved his hands into his pockets, looking at the ground before finally meeting my eyes. I owe you an apology, he said, voice cracking slightly. I waited. For everything. Another pause. For saying you held me back. For letting my friends tell me who I should be. For listening to Jasmine. For choosing chaos over the only stability I ever had. His breath shook. I thought excitement meant growth. I thought stability was suffocating. But it wasn't. You weren't. You were home. And I threw that away. There it was, the confession I once would have begged to hear. Now it felt small, late, like rain after a drought when the crops have already died. I didn't look away. I didn't soften. I didn't take pleasure in his pain either. I just let the truth settle. Anthony, I said quietly, you didn't choose excitement. You chose validation. You chose people who fed your ego because they needed someone to feel superior to. And you chose someone you thought made you look more impressive. His throat bobbed. And you know what Jasmine gave you? I continued. Exactly what your friends gave you, illusion. And illusions don't last. He flinched. You're right, he whispered. You're absolutely right. And I can't go back. I know that. But I needed to tell you I'm sorry. And I'm miserable, Charlotte. I'm alone. I messed up everything. I breathed in slowly. I'm not here to fix you, I said. I never was. I supported you. I believed in you. And when you told me I wasn't enough, you broke something that doesn't grow back. His eyes shone wet. Do you ever think about us? The question hung in the air. A past version of me would have cracked open. Now I felt steady, solid. No, I said simply, I don't. He swallowed hard. I continued gently but firmly. You wanted wings. You wanted to fly. You said you were tired of the ground I kept steady beneath you. So you flew Anthony, and you crashed. But that's not my consequence to bear. A tear slid down his face. He didn't wipe it. And Daniel, he asked softly. He is someone who knows how to build, not destroy, I said. Someone who sees stability as a strength, not a cage. Anthony closed his eyes, exhaling a tremor of grief. I was a fool, he whispered. I nodded. Yes, but that's your lesson, not my burden. He looked at me one last time, really looked, and I saw the understanding hit him like a tidal wave. He wasn't looking at the woman he discarded. He was looking at the woman who outgrew him. And that was the real heartbreak for him. When I returned to Daniel, he gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. You okay? He asked. I smiled a small, genuine smile. Yes, I said. For the first time in a very long time, yes. Across the room, Anthony stood alone, shoulders hunched, swallowed by shadows cast by the lantern lights. He wasn't a villain. He wasn't a victim. He was a man who mistook chaos for passion, advice for manipulation, and insecurity for ambition. And now he was living with the consequences. I took Daniel's hand, feeling warmth where cold once lived. We walked back into the celebration. And for the first time since everything ended, I felt something break free inside me. Not bitterness, not anger, not triumph, but closure. There's a strange quiet that follows closure. Not silence. Silence is heavy, expectant. Closure is different. It's light, almost weightless, like the air right after a storm when the world still smells like rain, but nothing is falling anymore. That's how the weeks after the wedding felt. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't even feel relieved in the dramatic way movies show it. I just felt free. Not the sharp freedom of rebellion, not the shaky freedom of escape, but the calm freedom of having nothing left to run from. My life settled into a comforting rhythm. Work flourished. My promotion became permanent, and I was leading a project team that challenged me in all the right ways. For the first time in years, my ambition didn't feel like a threat to a relationship. It felt like a natural extension of who I was becoming. Daniel and I continued dating slowly with intention rather than desperation. He didn't rush me. He didn't pull me. He simply met me exactly where I was and walked alongside me. We took weekend trips, nothing extravagant, nothing curated for social media, just cozy cabin stays, bookstore wanderings, local restaurants, shared laughter over burnt pancakes. The kind of simplicity that nourished me, not drained me. Daniel didn't compare me to anyone else. He didn't need me to fit an aesthetic or a narrative. He didn't need me to be exciting to prove something to his friends. With him, stability wasn't a cage, it was a foundation. And suddenly I understood what my therapist meant when she said, "Real love doesn't make you feel small." With Daniel, I didn't shrink. I expanded. A few months after the wedding, I received an envelope. No return address. Just my name written in a handwriting I hadn't seen in months, sharp on the edges, like someone trying too hard to make something look neat that wasn't neat anymore. Anthony. I held the envelope for a long moment. My pulse didn't spike. My stomach didn't clench. There was no fear, no longing, no dread. Just stillness. I opened it. Inside was a letter 3 pages handwritten messy, in places where the ink smudged. The tone shifted as he wrote, betraying every stage of his grief. The beginning was apologetic. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know I see everything now. How unfair I was, how blind, how easily influenced. Then it turned confessional. Jasmine was never someone I loved. She was someone I wanted to be approved by. I confused chaos with passion. I confused insecurity with ambition. I confused noise with happiness. Then regret. You were stability because you were strong. I called you boring because I was ashamed I needed your strength to feel grounded. Then longing. I missed the version of myself I was with you, not because of comfort, but because of clarity. I didn't wake up anxious. I didn't feel like I had to perform. I felt enough. Then the ache of realization. You were my home, Charlotte, and I don't think I'll ever have something that steady again. And finally, the part that told me exactly who he still was. If things ever change, if life leads you back to me, I'd be ready this time. I'd choose you. I exhaled slow and steady. Because that line revealed everything. He wasn't apologizing for hurting me. He wasn't grieving me. He was grieving the stability he lost and now wanted back. But I wasn't that woman anymore. And I wasn't his home. I was my own. I folded the letter neatly, placed it back in the envelope, and walked to the kitchen. I didn't burn it or rip it up or dramatize the moment. I just dropped it into the recycling bin like a piece of paper that had served its purpose. Then I wiped my hands on a towel and made tea. No shaking, no crying, no reminiscing. Just living. That night, I told Daniel I received a letter from my ex. He didn't tense. He didn't pry. He didn't compare himself. He simply asked, "Do you need to talk about it?" I thought about it, then said, "No, I'm okay." And I meant it. He pulled me close, kissed the top of my head, and we went back to watching our show. The warmth of his arm around me felt like the opposite of everything Anthony ever made me feel. Not adrenaline, not performance, not insecurity disguised as passion. Just peace. A few weeks later, I passed by the cafe Anthony used to love, a cozy place, with string lights and mismatched mugs. He was there sitting alone, staring at his phone with a look I recognized too well. A man wondering what life could have been if he had chosen differently. He saw me through the window. Our eyes met. And in that fraction of a second, I understood something profound. He wasn't the villain. He wasn't the shadow I feared. He wasn't the heartbreak I once clung to. He was simply someone whose chapter in my life had ended. Cleanly, quietly, completely. I gave him a polite nod and kept walking. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anything that tied me to who I used to be with him. just a gentle internal whisper. I don't wonder about you anymore. Life kept moving. Therapy continued. Work thrived. My friendships deepened. Daniel and I grew closer in a way that felt organic and intentional. One evening, as we cooked dinner together, laughing, bumping elbows, dancing poorly to a playlist he made, I felt something warm settle in my chest. Not the electric rush of infatuation, not the frantic grip of trying to prove something, not the desperate fear of losing someone, but genuine grounded love, the kind that isn't performative or loud, the kind that shows up, the kind that builds, the kind that stays. And I realized Anthony once wondered if I was worth keeping, then wondered why I walked away, then wondered whether he could ever get me back. But me, I wasn't wondering anymore. I was living. And that was the difference.